state your name and what you do.
Hi, my name is Terry Kalfas. I am the president of the Northwest Perennial Alliance, and I also serve as the director of the half-acre perennial border located at Bellevue Botanical Garden. So the Northwest Perennial Alliance is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is horticultural education. As part of that, we maintain and financially support this half-acre perennial border as a demonstration garden of what grows best in the Pacific Northwest. So this building is, or this area is called our propagation yard. We have a shed that we store tools in and tables inside where we propagate plants. So propagation means you're growing them from a parent plant. It could be by seed, it could be by division, it can be by cutting. So we can take plants out of the border and divide them and make more plants, or we can buy plants from a wholesaler and grow them so they're bigger, and we either plant them in the garden or we sell them to raise money for the garden. So these are things that we dug up a big peony plant out of the border this fall and split it apart and potted it up, and so now all the new peony plants are coming up. Same with these irises. So a lot of these plants were things we dug up from the garden. Oh, we have a branch down. I just noticed that. Oh. I'll have to call the director of the garden and let him know to come clean that out. We have a tree down.
Where?
See it hanging over right here. Hanging over the fence. No. Back.
Oh, right there.
We are one of the partner groups for the garden. So the garden has 10 different partner groups, and so as the group that maintains the perennial border, we think our garden is the gem of the whole Bellevue Botanical Garden. I'm sure that could be argued. I gotta watch out. The last time I was around you pulling a tree out, you knocked my glasses off my face.
I just got it.
So what makes the garden work is we have a very dedicated group of volunteers that are extremely dedicated. They come regularly. We work year round, so when it's hot, when it's cold. So we have a design team that works on the what plants we want to have in the border and how they're looking at different times of the year. So we just started, a couple months ago, we're trying to meet once a month so that we can look at the border every month and see what's blooming and what's not, and maybe where there are holes that need to be filled in. So today we're just going to be assessing some of the beds and how they're looking in mid-February. I have a crew of, actually we're up to almost 30 volunteers now who come in. They don't all come in at once, but they come in on Mondays and Thursday mornings and work in the garden, do weeding, planting, pruning. Well, no, this is a Cotinus, a smoke bush tree, and it put out a baby that's competing with the hydrangea. So I'm cutting this back so the hydrangea has a little more space. Right now, our biggest challenge in the garden is that we have a plant named Smyrnium perfoliatum that was intentionally planted in the border but has become an invasive weed for us. So this plant is in the carrot family. So when you dig it out, you need to get under the oops, I didn't get that one. I didn't get the base. So this is the base of the plant. which is its little carrot. So for all of these buried in here, we got to get the carrots out. Each plant, I've heard, produces approximately 3,000 seeds. So if this plant goes flowers and then drops seed, a lot of new baby plants come up. So we are trying to eradicate the plant completely from the garden, which is going to be a challenge for the next few years. So you can see how this plant's kind of growing lopsided. If you look back to that bigger plant, it looks like there's kind of a hole at its base. That plant was huge. And during the last ice storm, the whole front part of that plant broke off. So, but that plant used to grow and it partially covered this little Lonicera, which is why it's growing so sideways, is the top of the plant was covered by that other big one. But now that the big one's gone, I'm gonna lift this one up and reposition it so that it looks better. The other thing that makes the garden so rewarding is the visitors who come. So Bellevue Botanical Garden has over 400,000 visitors a year come to the garden. As we're working in the border, we get to interact with a lot of the visitors. We get to do a lot of education about the plants that are there and about the techniques we're using in the garden. And the garden's a real healing place for people. Okay, she looks a lot happier now. Probably one of my most memorable moments in the garden was a woman approached me, and I had noticed her and her husband coming. Every time I was there, they were there. They were sitting on a bench and they were taking photos of the plants, but they kind of camped out on this one bench for a couple of months. They were there pretty frequently, and towards the end of that period, she walked up to me and she told me that her husband had been diagnosed with cancer, and they lived in Idaho, but they came to Seattle for treatment. And outside of the treatment times, they had a lot of free time on their hand. So they came to the garden to find comfort and find peace. It was a really happy place for them to come visit. So that was a really touching thing to hear, how much she appreciated the work that all the volunteers were doing in the border.
Do you need a hug? You look like you're.
Do I need a hug?
You look like you're about to cry.
Oh, it's okay. I think it was luck that I got this position when my youngest child graduated from high school. I was no longer a PTA mom, no longer a booster mom, no longer a Boy Scout mom. So a lot of things that filled my time when my kids were in school kind of disappeared when my youngest graduated from high school. So being able to do volunteer work that is actually fun for me, because I love gardening. You know, it's a lot more fun to work in the garden than to go to a PTA meeting. So I'm really glad I am able to do this job.